Welcome to the third Product Growth Masterclass. I'd like to welcome Vikram, who's the Senior Director of Marketing at Chargebee. Vikram's been doing SaaS marketing for almost 15 years. He was at Freshdesk when I think, which now became Freshworks, when Freshdesk raised its first round of funding, which was around, I think, 2012. What made you so upbeat, facing this unprecedented crisis that everyone's, struggling with?
Second week of March, when almost globally we went into a lockdown, things were bad for everybody. We started seeing about a 14% drop across all our metrics. Now I'm going to jump to the climax right away. In about 2 weeks after that, we saw not just things getting back to normal, but we saw things get 20% better than they were even before this whole thing started. Right? Mm-hmm. But the best part is, when we had the 14% drop, we weren't surprised, we weren't worried. And when we had the 20% growth, we weren't excited and elated. It was something that was planned and structured, and it was something that we had operated on.
And you call this adaptive marketing. What goes into an adaptive marketing? What makes it, what makes it so easy or possible for Chargebee to react so quickly to changing market situation?
As opposed to a regular marketing strategy that is designed, of course, to weather external pressures, mm-hmm. An adaptive marketing strategy is something that's able to utilize these external pressures as opportunities and use that to flip the direction in which you operationalize things and actually you grow with these things. So in terms of what goes into building a strategy like this, surprisingly, it's not a lot, right? Obviously, every strategy from a marketing standpoint should start from the buyer. Uh-huh. So even before you can build an adaptive strategy, you need to actually have a strategy. And your strategy starts from the buyer persona. But to actually adapt and move rapidly, understanding this buyer and the changes, the evolutions that happens from the buyer's point of view is even more critical. Right? So first thing is the buyer. The second is the channels that you focus on, because when anything changes in the market around you, in the ecosystem, a huge part comes down to distribution. Now, every organization at each point of growth has at least one channel that it's able to scale. Right? And I say at each point in growth because as you grow, your channels are going to evolve. As the market changes, your channels are going to evolve. And especially as you start hitting channel capacity, your channels have to evolve. The third and probably the most important is the team, because it's just a little bit weird, right? We need artists, we need creators, we need executors, we need people who are great at optimizing things. We need data analysts. We need research scholars. Yeah. And every marketer brings in their own bunch of eccentricities to the game. And in my opinion, your marketing strategy isn't something that just acknowledges these eccentricities, but actually builds on top of these quirks. And finally, there's the market environment, right? So there's you might have the greatest plan in the world, great team, deep research. But as reality has shown it, right, one random guy who chooses to eat a bat in Wuhan can throw your entire plan into a spike.
How do you define the buyer? Who's your target customer? What is this buyer persona that you talked about?
Chargebee is this critical infrastructure that helps SaaS businesses manage their subscriptions and revenue. So it falls into an essential category of services for any SaaS business. True. And because it's so deeply connected to the org, there's this huge variety of stakeholders that we end up catering to. There's the developer involved because they have to actually integrate the Chargebee into the product. There's the product team involved because it impacts pricing decisions and a whole bunch of plethora of things there in terms of bundling. There's finance involved because obviously at the end of the day, we're talking about revenue. So there's revenue recognition and books and reconciliation and compliance. There's sales involved because it comes down to pricing, and sales is, the biggest stakeholder with respect to how a sale happens. Yeah. And then there's CEOs and startups and BU heads and enterprises. Yeah. Right. So first thing is, in terms of who are we selling to, there's this laundry list of everybody. Okay, fine. And then since we enable core subscriptions, about 3 years ago, we in terms of our target market, it's really wide, right? It's any business which has a recurring revenue model. Mm-hmm. And third, for most businesses to flip infrastructure, it's really hard once they choose a provider. So even as we started scaling and moving up market, we couldn't afford to lose our strategic advantage and focus on startups, right? So we needed to continue enabling and building and developing the next generation of businesses to scale, while also moving up market and acquiring these bigger customers. So to put that together, there was a point about 3 years ago where we were trying to sell to all personas, across all industries, across maturity, right?
Across geographies.
Across geographies.
Exactly.
And it was honestly insane. So in 2018, we undertook a series of massive research projects to understand our buyer persona, to understand who exactly this persona is. And we realized that, yes, we were selling to all of these people, right? But across all of these roles, people came to Chargebee to solve one problem, right? Which was their operational inefficiencies. And no matter who you were in the organization, when you came to Chargebee, you were donning that hat of operations, right? A developer came to Chargebee because they wanted to simplify how their product code and their billing logic was tied together. A product guy came to us because they wanted to solve the operational inefficiency of flipping and experimenting on pricing, right?
Yeah.
They came to us because they wanted to solve for the operational inefficiency of reconciliations and bookkeeping. What's different is we aren't selling to roles anymore. We're selling to hats. And this made a massive, massive difference, right? First part in terms of persona. And then we realized that there was a very specific type of business that is able to fit perfectly well with Chargebee and grow fastest with us. Almost any B2B business can say, when our customers grow, we grow.
Yeah.
But for Chargebee, it's like as literal as it can be. Right? Our customers make more revenue, we make more revenue. So there's two things. First thing, we design our product, our internal machinery, including our marketing and messaging, about how can we help our customers make more money. And the second thing, how can we acquire the kind of customers who fit really well with us and who are able to scale rapidly, right? Who are able to grow 2x or 2.5x year on year. So this solves all three problems. Suddenly, we know what kind of persona we're going for. We're not going for a role, we're going for a hat that they wear. We know what kind of industries we're going for. And we know that in terms of maturity, it doesn't matter if it's a startup or a scaling business or an enterprise, as long as they are on that massive growth trajectory, problems that we're trying to solve. The moment you distill out the buyer, the moment you distill out who your buyer persona is, the impact it has across the organization in terms of, so first off, obviously, it gave us immense clarity from a product standpoint, right? Second thing, from a marketing standpoint, right? When you go after the right persona with the right messaging and the right product, it gets so much easier to sell, to convert these customers into revenue, but also to retain these customers and watch them grow with you.
Yeah.
Right? Third, of course, is the revenue part of it, which I think is pretty obvious. But then there's the fourth part that I think gets spoken a lot about, right? Which is happiness. Because, like, you know exactly who you're talking to and what their pain points are and how you're solving their problems.
Yeah.
It just adds so much more context and value to the work you bring in every day, right? It's so much more, like, emotionally, I can tell you as a marketer that it's just fulfilling to be able to zero down on a persona. Every brainstorm session, you have your persona sitting next to you. All right, so this is the person, this is their problem, and this is what I'm solving.
A lot of companies do spend a lot of effort in segmenting their customers based on the size of the company, the number of, the revenue, number of employees, and so on and so forth. But you're saying actually that's useful, but that's even more useful is to actually drop those differences and go to the base of their behaviors that are driving. What kind of impact it had for Chargebee?
So segmentation is one of the most important things. Like, the way I see it, a marketer, at least at a strategic level, has to do two things, right? One is they have to club different data points together. So there's one story, there's not 100,000 stories. And second, they have to break this into the minimum number of segments that ends up creating the maximum impact. Right? Now, the problems for these guys are very, very, very different. And it's critical for us to be able to box these and say, all right, so for this persona, this kind of a user, this is the problem that we bring to the table. Right? And this is the solution, this is how we are trying to solve it. Okay, so we know that our fastest growing segment, right? So one of our core indicators. Now, I can tell you that our indicators are North Star metrics from a marketing point of view. Within Chargebee is the net retention rate, right? NRR, which is interesting, right? NRR happens much later. It happens post sales in the customer success expansion point of view.
Right.
And the reason we care about NRR is because it tells you that what is the rate at which each group or cohort of customers are growing.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a cohort of customers which grow with us at say 140% year on, right? A customer, like if we brought in one customer that could give us say $100 last year, by this year, this customer would be giving us $140. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of customers that we want to bring in, that we want to, build the product to make their life really easy and get them on really quickly.
So maybe talk about how have the channels evolved for you for Chargebee, and how does that contribute to the adaptive marketing?
Perfect. So yes, again, from a marketing standpoint, I see marketing again come down to like there's research, there's creation, and then there's distribution. Right? If you don't have distribution, it doesn't matter. Which means channels are like I'd say one of the lifelines of what marketing is all about. Right? Most of our marketing metrics, our core leading indicators from a marketing standpoint, we've grown over 20x in the last 2.5 years. So there's actually two things that I think are critical. Two frameworks that we applied that are critical here. First is with respect to channel fitment, and second is with respect to channel capacity. So channel fitment is this channel the right channel to approach this kind of a target customer? The second is channel capacity, right? Now, I know I'm not supposed to use foul language, but this is something that Andrew Chen said, so I'm allowed to say it, right? So there's this rule in marketing called the law of shitty click-throughs, right? You should Google it, everybody here. It's called at any point, any channel that you invest in is going to get to a point where it's going to start giving you diminishing returns, right?
Yeah.
So for Chargebee, of course, we're still in a market where there's huge inbound volume. There's huge demand in the market for the product and solution that we have. So our first channel or approach was to maximize our paid ads and content.
Yeah.
But over the years, we've increasingly invested in other approaches, in say an account-based marketing approach, especially for the upper markets. We continue to scale a community-driven approach for startups.
Right.
So there's three stages in which I look at our channel growth. First is from a volume point of view.
Yeah.
Second is velocity, and third of that predictability. So the first 6 months, we focused on scaling our inbound. We set up a framework. I call this the Scout, Scope, Snipe framework. We now call it the 3S framework. Where how do you expand your volume? First, you start with you throw a lot of very low value campaigns, right? Now, when I say campaigns, this could be paid ads, this could be other campaigns that you're doing, this could be content, but basically you throw very low investment things. Be something as small as a tweet that you throw out and you see how much engagement that it will give. But the idea here is you throw things and you scout, right? You see how much, okay, does this have resonance, does it not, does it make sense? Based on this, you scope it down, right? Okay. So from paid ads point of view, you throw out on something across the category, you start bidding on something like software or subscriptions or something like that, which is huge volumes. And then now you start scoping it down. You start cutting out whatever is meaningless and you start investing on the pieces that are giving you better returns.
Got it.
Actually get you conversions. And then finally you snipe, right? Which is you start fitting in negatives and you take this and you're like, okay, so this is a successful campaign or an initiative that I can run off, right? So once we started doing this, we were able to generate this massive volume in terms of our channel capacities. But even as we were doing this, we wanted to keep an eye on quality because obviously you expand your volume, quality is going to go to dogs, and at some point somebody's going to be unhappy. So we set up this framework where we basically we organize the cost on one axis, the cost of each of our efforts, and then the quality of output on the other axis. So now we have a 2x2 quadrant. You have some initiatives that are low cost but high quality output, right? And these are our leaders, right? These initiatives are our leaders, which you throw very little money, gives you a lot of value at the other end. Beautiful. And then you have low cost, you have high cost and high quality initiatives, which are called our truffles.
Okay.
Then you have your low cost and low quality initiatives, which are still fun. I mean, they're low quality, but they're so cheap that you can just throw some and get some output at the other end. So we call them the bleeders because you want to keep watching on it, because if you don't, then slowly you'll start bleeding without even noticing.
Right.
And then finally, you have the high cost and low quality campaigns, which you should just get out. That's all the numbers, and you just get out. So yeah, so that's kind of like a framework we use to for almost every initiative that we run. Kind of map it here and optimize it accordingly. That way, we're able to keep an eye on quality and and kind of the ROI that comes out of each campaign and an initiative.
Interesting. And also, I think you kind of briefly referred to that over time you also had to, kind of build in different channels, right? So you had to put in the ABM for the account-based marketing for the larger customers. You had to do community-based initiatives for startups. Maybe a little bit about that. It's very interesting to hear about these things.
We started investing in this thing called ABM. Okay, I have to be very clear. It wasn't ABM. It was just some fancy thing where we were like, all right. So we were looking at what are the different advertising channels and what are the different ways in which we can reach out. We were like, okay, so there is this thing where we can hyper target specific accounts and we can actually have conversations. We were like, okay, that sounds like fun. Let's try doing this. And for about 3 months, it bore horrible results. Because the first thing that we did from an account-based marketing approach, the way we have it set up today, the first thing that we did was bring in better quality into the pipe, right? So we said, all right, so for each category of customers or prospects that we want to go into, how are we going to create this target list of accounts that we want to go into? How are we going to categorize? What are the kind of personas that we want? And given that we have this amazing mechanism to hyper target these guys, how are we going to show specific content for the different persona, for the finance person, for the developer, for the product person, etc. The second thing that we did was utilizing intent. Now, there's amazing like marketing automation and marketing intelligence tools out there are amazing today. There is intent information. For example, somebody comes into a review site like G2 Crowd today and evaluates our category of products or evaluates us, compares us against the competitor. We don't know who it is, but we know which organization they came from. And in about 2 hours from then, we will start targeting the specific persona. We will start targeting the product, the sales, the finance persona in that organization with content about Chargebee, right? About the problems that they were looking for. The third thing is in any website, right? If you look at it, you get X number of visitors. If you're really good, maybe you have 10% of those convert downstream. Right? 90% of people come down to your website, they're going to look around, they're going to bounce. But you still have some information about them, right? So with tools like Clearbit today, you're able to reverse IP lookup, you're able to identify which companies these accounts are from. And we can now that there are a bunch of companies which have an intent, which have expressed at least a certain degree of problem. So for us at Chargebee, we go a little beyond that. We look at what was their behavior when they came in, what were they looking for, what did they come in, and then what do they do on the website? Were they looking at multiple content pieces? Were they looking at things like our pricing, etc.? Did they try to talk to somebody but bounce off at the last minute? And based on this, again, we have different levels of targeting that we do. So purely from a demand point of view, the evolution of it started out as a fun experiment that we did, but it's evolved to a point of okay, so how can we really go in with razor sharp focus and crack into these. The other end, from a startup point of view, now we have always believed I think this is something that flows down from our founders. We've always believed in building an ecosystem of startups, right? And I think one of the reasons is like purely financial, in that if the SaaS ecosystem grows, Chargebee grows.
Sure. Yeah.
So we have a vested interest in making the market grow. So there's a lot of community investment for the startup segment. There's a lot of material and collateral and information that we regularly push out,
Yeah.
specifically targeted for helping startups to scale and grow.
Yeah.
In fact, we have a community investment as part of our organization initiatives. That specifically brings in AMAs from other founders, specifically targeted for the 0 to 100K or the 0 to 1M journey.
And it's actually quite good. Actually, gorelay.co. That's what you're referring to. So it's actually it's been taking off. And this community initiative is, I'm guessing it's low effort but high value.
I wouldn't say it's low effort at all, right? Communities are like it's like having a baby, right? You've got to like carry it around for 9 months and nurture it, and it's an investment. Exactly, like you said, it's an investment that we're making for the future.
Yeah,
I don't still believe we've hit that critical mass where community efforts are starting to kick off.
Yeah,
but it's an investment for the future.
I think the third one you talked about was team. The expectations from the Chargebee's marketing team itself have changed over the last 3 years. Are these the expectations from the from the company towards the marketing team, and more importantly, how has it evolved, over the last 3 years or so?
In a way, I think the organizational expectations from marketing are constantly evolving, right? And I don't think this evolution is something that's just limited to marketing.
Yeah.
As the organization grows, the expectations from different departments grow.
Yeah.
But from marketing specifically, it moves from a feature marketing. Hey, there's this feature. How are we going to take this to the space? To a value-based marketing approach, right? From a point of servicing sales to supporting customer success, to building brand perception, right? So there's this evolution that it takes through. Yeah. But from a very self-centric or a marketing-centric point of view, I feel like especially with marketing, we're always chasing a moving target, right? First and foremost, the fundamental of marketing, whether people agree to this or not, the truth is you need to feed pipeline, right? When sales is hungry, they are the loudest voice in the room, and nothing else matters if sales is hungry, right? The first and most important thing that marketing has to do is to make sure that there is pipeline. Yes. So once there is in our journey, the way I would map it out is the first thing was demand growth, right? Getting to volume. The second was predictable pipeline delivery, right? Now, predictable, like this is like not just delivering pipeline, but delivering pipeline in a predictable fashion. If sales has a target of X and you need to deliver a pipeline of 3.5X, what plans are you building out to make sure that is in the door? Then the third thing, it is in marketing's best interest to enable sales, right? In terms of consuming this pipeline. Because if sales is enabled to consume pipeline better, that means the pressure on marketing to build excess pipeline is less. The third big focus area, once you've done this, you will suddenly see one day where the organization's like, you know what, yeah, pipeline is okay, but what are you doing to actually help sales consume that? And that means, okay, so the pipeline part is actually checked off, now you move to the next problem. And then as you're doing this enablement, there will be a point where we hear, okay, but what about the brand? There are still so many businesses that haven't heard about us. What are we doing about that? And at that point, that's like, all right, so to a certain degree, the pipeline consumption problem is under control. Now it's the problem that you need to focus on. As we're solving for the brand, comes the problem of community, right? So sure, we're doing all of this, but what happens if you turn off the engines? It's in the way we look at how the expectations from marketing have evolved over time. It's moved from demand growth to predictable pipeline delivery to consumption to creating a brand to building the community. And of course, at each point, it's like Maslow's hierarchy, right? At each point, you need to also make sure that the pieces below are continuing to get fit.
But I think it's interesting because I think what is you're also referring to a little bit is the non-linearity that's coming into the system, right? So I think the first two stages, pipeline creation, pipeline consumption, are linear, right? But the brand creation gives you a little more non-linear growth, and then community obviously takes it to the next level, and a super linear growth that you can see, from a marketing's point of view as well, right? So,
True, Ajay. It's also because, and this is more particularly for growth stage marketers. Marketers who are part of that massive scale journey.
yeah,
When you're say moving from 1 to 5 to 10 to 20 to 50 to 100 year on, and when you're in that trajectory, right?
Right.
Every year things change at almost a grassroots fundamental level, right? Your team change, processes change, leadership styles and structures change. Suddenly you focus at different segments. You start focusing up market, which means your marketing trajectory cannot be linear anymore, right?
Exactly.
If you have to map your organization's growth, which is on an exponential curve, it has to go exponential.
Exactly. Very good point.
When you are at a $1 million business, you are building pipeline for a $5 million business.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are at a $10 million business, you are building a brand that will take you to $100 million.
Yes, that's a very good point, and I think that's a very great question that I want to ask you. When I talk about Chargebee now, I talk about Chargebee as a RevOps company, revenue operations company, right? And I think it's a fabulous activity that you guys undertook. Can you tell us a little bit about what is this RevOps and how did it come about for Chargebee?
I was talking about all of these different personas and the hats they wear and the operational inefficiencies that they're, which is the problem that we end up solving, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was about 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, when we were sitting down with the team and we were brainstorming. And so when I say brainstorming, our research process is actually pretty exhaustive. Mm-hmm. So starting from listening to sales calls, right? Anybody who is looking at the first point of primary research to do, I highly recommend that you listen to at least the first call that a prospect has with the sales team. Right. Wealth of information in terms of what words they use, what terminologies, how do they explain their pain points. Mm. Right. And then moving to actually having conversations with customers, right? Mm. And mapping out what their workflows look like, mapping out what they do every day. And then coming back, doing one-on-one conversations with others, non-customers, prospects in the space. Yeah. And this gives you four levels of understanding about your customers, starting from the who is this buyer, mm-hmm. right? Which comes down to a jobs to be done framework. What is the job that this person is hiring your product to do? Right? For us, they were hiring Chargebee to solve an operational inefficiency problem. Right? And then it comes to the next part of it, which is why are they actually trying to solve this problem? Right? What's the underlying need that they're trying to satisfy through this? Right? For us, it was revenue growth. These businesses are using Chargebee to drive their revenue growth. And then it comes down to what are their aspirations? What does this person want to be in their career? They want to be seen as the champion. They want to be seen as they are sitting on top of a rocket ship, and they want to be able to continuously drive this rocket ship further and further upwards. Right? Yeah. So it comes down to, now you put all of these pieces together, you come down to, all right, so what we're looking at is this revenue operations person, this person who is trying to operationalize their revenue growth. Mm-hmm. Back then, there's always, with anything in marketing, there is going to be a lot of dissent. We had a lot of dissent. We had a lot of back and forth. Some people were believers immediately. Some people were not. Some people took some time. But one of the big parts there was there were a few skeptics who said, hey, you know what? We went on Google and the top 3 content pieces on what is revenue operations says something slightly different. It says it's sales ops plus. Mm-hmm. Right? But when we spoke to these practitioners, when we spoke to revenue operations practitioners, the idea that we got was, no, it's not sales ops plus. It's a fundamental change in how you're thinking about your entire operations across from sales to marketing all the way down to finance and success.
Yeah.
We were like, you know what? maybe we should give this a shot. And this is really critical for marketers to do. Right? Sometimes you need to believe, give it your 100%, and then if things don't work out, be ready to take a couple of steps back. For us, we gave it our 100%, and in 2 months, you could look up on Google on Waters Revenue Operations, and the first few results would have been our results or the results that we had been proposing through the market. It started creating a shift in terms of the market sentiment with respect to the brand. And then a big delta was, most things at the end of the day, most B2B things are not the most exciting. It's not like blow your socks off exciting every day. And yet, one of my teammates, one of the people in the marketing team, a very, very, very smart person, came up with this initiative, this virtual summit that we wanted to do, and we did this mid-April, called the Revenue Operations, the DevOps Summit, right? Called it the DevOps Intervention. There's this whole story for why we even called it an intervention, right? Because there was something fundamentally wrong with how people were looking at their operational flow. Why people were choosing to live with an inefficiency.
Yeah.
Certain leaders from HubSpot and Zendesk and Freshworks and a whole bunch of GoNimbly, whole bunch of leaders in the space to come in and talk about how they were operationalizing their revenue flow, how they were looking at the inefficiencies, and why they wanted to look at different ways at plugging this. Right? And it's, B2B, you would expect to get 100, 200 registrants, maybe 500.
Yeah,
1,500 businesses. 1,500 businesses came in and said, "Yeah, this is what we do."
Wow. But yeah, I think that's so. The revenue ops itself came about because you were able to understand the persona well, and I think you were able to structure not only the jobs to be done, but also their aspirations, also their goals, right? As human beings, what they were looking for, right? And I think you were able to integrate that into the the story. And I think at some level you're saying that resonated or that contributed to some extent, or perhaps to a large extent, for people saying, okay, these guys understand me. They know what I need, not only from a functional point of view, but also from a non-functional point of view.
Correct. Right? Ajay, sorry, I just had to quickly reference in my notes. There was like one piece So there's basically 4 pieces here that I think are really important. Now, marketers here, if you can, please look into these 4 things. It took me a very long time to discover these, probably very normal for you guys, so pardon my ignorance. But if you didn't know this, first thing is the jobs to be done. And it's amazing to just think about, all right, so what is this job that customers or prospects are hiring my product to solve for?
Yeah.
The second most beautiful thing, and this was a phrase I heard from some talk somewhere, and I was enamored by it, is the 0 moment of truth. Right? Now, when we do our customer research, when we do our analysis, we're always looking at, okay, so how is this customer going to use my product? And how is this customer, what does this customer do when he's looking for my product? How do I want to tell him my story?
Right.
One step before that, right? What happened at that 0th moment, right? That fraction of a second before a customer realized the need for your product, right? And that's the 0 moment of truth. And it could be the most significant research that you end up building for your customer, right? Now, the jobs to be done and the 0 moment of truth directly drive into the whys, the non-functional why for what your customer is hiring your product to do.
Yeah.
Then drives into their aspirations and motivations and what they want to do, right? Yeah. What they want to grow into become, right? Problem plan or however you want to call it.
Number one, what is it? What is about the adaptive marketing that makes it useful for early stage companies? Because early stage companies are also, obviously facing a lot of challenges, and that ties into why is it anti-fragile marketing? Right? Things change rapidly for early stage companies. How would it help them?
Beautiful. So first thing I want to tell you what adaptive marketing or anti-fragile marketing isn't actually. Okay, It is not robust. Okay, the definition is not robust, right? In the sense that it's not a rigid framework, right? So a robust marketing strategy, which is what through a good chunk of my my career, something that I tried out was a robust marketing strategy, which means, here's my marketing strategy and it will withstand anything that happens outside. Sales can change motion, The market can change, Wuhan guy can bats, and my marketing strategy will still remain solid. Um, an anti-fragile or an adaptive strategy, the way I like to call it, is quite the opposite. It actually doesn't withstand these pressures. Instead, it takes in these pressures and turns them into opportunities. Right. So, like 2.5 years ago, I used to create these beautifully detailed plans with respect to with average time to close deals, average deal sizes, and work back to how much we need to do when and what, accounting for multiple segments, all of those things. And then these things change. These things change almost month on month, right? And especially in a growing organization, the more rigid boxed your systems are, you're just setting yourself up for failure. Your plan is going to be a nice little Excel sheet that doesn't get used past month two. But let these variables change. Let these variables evolve month on month. Right? Every month, you will be reforecasting and reapplying your entire approach, your entire strategy to account for the new realities. That's the broad of how an anti-fragile marketing would work. Right? Ever since, or in fact, slightly even before this whole situation got out, we created a system of first thing, indicators, and strategies. Right. So there's a bunch of indicators that we're looking at that we personally in marketing we look at on a daily basis, but at an org-wide level we look at on a weekly basis. And based on these, we have some triggers which fire out, and based on which triggers are firing, we are ready to flip our strategies accordingly. Right? So specifically for us, we look at indicators across 4 categories. We look at top funnel opportunity. What is happening across the market? Are people, for example, as soon as this whole lockdown started, everybody knew, right? Everybody was ready, like had more time to attend webinars, to attend learning courses, etc. Right? So how are we going to maximize on this as soon as it happens? Now that this situation has changed, now people are a little jaded. People don't want to go into webinars as much. Now how do we maximize on that opportunity? Second is for us search intent, because at the end of the day, a huge chunk of what we do is very inbound focused. Second big focus area that we have is with respect to search intent. So for us, we have what's called the key 5 index, which is our key 5 categories of searches that account for about 80% of our search volume. Now, if our key 5 index, it's like the stock market index for us. If the key 5 index goes down, that means there is lesser search volume in the market for us, and we need to be looking at other avenues. Right? The third is what we call the pregnant python, right? So the pregnant python is this problem with respect to your pipeline, right? If you look at your pipeline as moving through a python, and you find something stuck in value prop, and it's just getting fatter and fatter, and deals are moving through. It doesn't matter how well your top funnel and your search intent and all of that is. The pipeline that you're bringing just isn't moving through, right? You need to kind of rethink your strategy there. The final worst case scenario is a leaky bucket, right? Where we're bringing in all of this, we're bringing in revenue, but for whatever reason, that revenue ends up getting churned at the other end. Right? So we obsessively look at what churn patterns are looking like, with our churn early or late stage, is it voluntary or involuntary, what kind of industries and verticals are getting impacted on this. So based on this, we plan out the way we design our budget, and when I say budget, the way we look at the different initiatives completely changes, right? So we have 9 categories of initiatives by answering 3 questions, 3 binary questions, yes or no. Does this impact revenue? Yes, no. Will this impact be felt in this quarter or the next? And if we didn't do this now, will we be missing out on an opportunity? Right? So if you answered yes to all 3, it is a necessary growth initiative. You need to make that investment no matter what.
So if I understand right, that you're saying that by combining the buyer, the channels, the team, and the environment together with the metrics and measuring it across the funnel and understanding different aspects of metrics, right, even to the end of the user journey, life cycle of the customer, which is the churn, is what makes it both adaptive as well as anti-fragile. Right? It basically can live on its own. Yeah,
correct. The thing you need to be able to execute on the strategy is a context of these 4 things, right? You need very deep context of your buyer. You need to understand your team really well. You need to have a good grip on your channel, and you need to have 17 eyes peeled into the environment.
Perhaps you can share your final remarks.
The core thing that if there's like one or two things that I think we should all be taking away from my learnings in this talk today is your marketing strategy should be built around let's say rules of engagement, right? Not around rigid assumptions. And when I say rules of engagement, that would mean passing down the strategy, passing down the ability to execute to the individual executor, to the individual marketer who's doing things, right? So your strategy um, should be stable enough in that it's an overarching rule of what needs to be done, but it shouldn't be so prescriptive that when things change, it all comes down to you to flip everything, or your marketers aren't able to actually adapt to change rapidly. So a good marketing strategy and a good marketing leader, in my opinion, is if you didn't exist, the team should still be able to perform just as well or even better without.